We will continue to work to realize the vision of our forebears who envisioned us to be the Black Star of Africa. COVID-19 has devastated our economies, which has been exacerbated by the aftermath of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. No country on earth has been spared the extensive difficulties brought forth by these occurrences. And I'm sure all of you, eminent clergy, are experiencing these in your respective countries. Over the past years, in particular, my government has implemented a number of policies and programs, all in an attempt to hasten economic recovery from the depredations of COVID-19. We have introduced measures to improve fiscal consolidation and ensure debt sustainability, which are crucial and critical to achieving macroeconomic stability in the short to medium term. Sooner rather than later, we will emerge strongly out of these challenges. Eminent clergy, faith and religion play an important part in this wholesome development that I speak of. And you, as religious leaders, play critical roles in that development. It is to you that people instinctively turn when faced with the troubles and difficulties of life. And you can, by your attitude and your words, either stoke fires or bring calm to troubled waters. When the world is in tumult, as it is today, the faith that gives inner strength and something to lean on becomes even more important than usual. I have every confidence that you will rise to the occasion and provide this anchor during these difficult times. Whilst I'm here, it would be remiss of me not to take advantage of the opportunity to address a subject that is in your area of competence and is very much in the news here, currently in Ghana. We have embarked on the construction of a national cathedral, which we hope would fill a missing link in our nation's spiritual architecture by providing a formal space for the religious activities of the state. Designed by the iconic Ghanaian global architect, David Addo, who designed the National Museum of African American History and Culture Museum in Washington, D.C., capital of the United States of America. Our national cathedral will provide an interdenominational space for worship and will attempt to serve God at the center of our nation-building efforts, providing an official venue of worship for faith occasions in a nation that is predominantly Christian, that is a nation where more than 70% of the people are self-confessed Christians. It will also serve as a fulcrum for propagating the Christian faith, unifying the Christian community, and serve as a tribute to religious liberty. But more importantly, it will serve as our collective thanksgiving to the Almighty for the blessings He has bestowed on us, on our nation, sparing us the ravages of civil war that have bedeviled the histories of virtually all our neighbors and the outbreak of mass epidemics. Just as building the Temple of Solomon was an epoch-making event not only in Israel, but also in the whole world, we believe the building of the National Cathedral is an epochal event not only in Ghana, but also in the rest of Africa. Thus, although the National Cathedral was envisaged for Ghana, we have included elements to make it relevant to the African Church. The design, described as, and quote, an architectural expression of African Christianity, unquote, captures the moment when Christianity became a significant force on Africa's cultural landscape. David Addo, whose current major work, the construction of the Abrahamic House in the United Arab Emirates, UAE, is scheduled to be commissioned by His Holiness Pope Francis by the end of this year, says the Ghana National Cathedral is being developed as a home for African Christianity. The project also includes a Bible Museum of Africa and will be the largest Bible museum in the world, with a thematic focus on, firstly, the role of Africa and Africans in the Bible, and secondly, the history and contemporary place of the Church in Africa and in the African diaspora. It will house the Bible, translated into African languages, tell the story of the Church in Africa and the African diaspora, and provide a convening platform for discussions on the role of faith in Africa's transformation. There will also be the Biblical Gardens of Africa, which include the trees, shrubs, and flowers of the Bible, and serve as a major resource for Christians all over the African continent. These three initiatives, the path-breaking design, the Bible Museum of Africa, and the Biblical Gardens of Africa, will help to ensure the relevance of the project to the Church in Africa. We intend also to engage the Vatican Museum and Library to see whether it will be possible to secure artifacts that will help to make this into a major resource center for African Christians. The Vatican has been known to provide such assistance in appropriate cases. The project has run into contemporary controversy currently about the funding. My personal view has always been that even though the cathedral will be very much a national institution, the cost should be largely borne by the Christian community, with the state providing the land and initial funding to get the project off the ground. Looking through the history of all the great cathedrals of the world, there has never been what can be called an appropriate time to build a cathedral. Invariably, it has taken many years, sometimes centuries, to complete. The National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. took 83 years to complete. It took 150 years to build St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, and it took 182 years to finish the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Indeed, the reigning medieval monarchs of the time made significant contributions towards the construction of Notre Dame in Paris. And in the case of the Basilica, construction began and was completed during the era of the papacy's greatest temporal power, again in medieval times. When these great cathedrals were built, the societies that housed them had not finished with the satisfaction of their major development needs: hospitals, schools, bridges, roads, homes needed to be built. And I dare say, if one were to consider only those needs, there would never be a good time to build a church, a cathedral, or any of the great buildings of faith around the world. But once they are built, they've proven to be instruments that brought people together and deepened the spiritual and emotional experience of a vast majority of people. I'm fortified by the words of Holy Scripture in Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 4, which says, and I quote, "If you wait until the wind and the weather are just right, you will never sow anything and never harvest anything," unquote. I'm hoping that the Christian community in Ghana, Africa, and abroad will rise up to the challenge and join in the fundraising for the construction of the National Cathedral. I do not envisage that this project will take a century to complete, like the great historical cathedrals of the world. Technology has transformed building methods dramatically, and I'm certain that if the Christian community accepts the challenge, we shall construct this cathedral, and quickly. Once completed, its value will be obvious to all. 3 years ago, on 15th April 2019, the great Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris was engulfed by a big fire. The next morning, the French president, His Excellency Emmanuel Macron, stood by the devastated monument and said, and I quote, "Notre Dame is our history, our literature, part of our psyche, the place of all our great events, our epidemics, our wars, our liberations, the epicenter of our lives," unquote. That statement sparked a dramatic response amongst the French people, for it led many French men and women, great and small, to make generous contributions towards the restoration of the great iconic monument, which is fully on course. Those words struck a deep chord within me. That is what I see as the purpose of our national cathedral. Let us build our national cathedral to be the epicenter of our lives, the place for our great celebrations, our Thanksgiving, our funerals, the place for great moments of silence and introspection, the place that symbolizes the place of faith in our national psyche. I give my personal undertaking that the funds raised for the building of the National Cathedral will be treated with the sacred trust that they deserve, with transparency and accountability. Eminent clergy, I pray that you have fruitful discussions. Let me, in conclusion, express great joy and gratitude to the Holy Father for the elevation of our worthy compatriot, Bishop Bawab Richard Kuya, and our fellow African, Bishop Okpalike of Nigeria, to the enviable status of cardinals of the Catholic Church. They are both to be warmly congratulated. I had the great pleasure and privilege to be part of the government delegation in October 2003 as then Minister for Foreign Affairs that accompanied Bishop Peter Turkson to Rome when he was elevated by Pope John II, John Paul II, to the status of cardinal. Great eye-opener for me, which I continue to treasure till today, including the companionship of Archbishop Buckle, who was with us in Rome at the time. May God bless the Symposium of Episcopal Conferences of Africa and Madagascar, SICAM, Mother Africa, and us all. I thank you for your attention.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, we are very grateful for your message.